today would be a good day to kind of set some groundwork for some language that we might use throughout the year. Let me introduce myself too. I'm Ginger Rothhaas, and I spent the last year with you guys on Wednesdays, and Brooke was so kind to invite me back, and we have all shared a lot in this group and gotten to know each other, and this is a pretty special place on Wednesday mornings. So thank you to Kate and Kenyon and Brooke and Greg for making this all happen, and now Chuck too. I am a coach. I write a lot. I have a book coming out end of October. If you get my Tuesday emails, they are all going into a book form. As a quick reference, it's 150 practices organized by like when my mind is racing, when I have a decision to make. And so it's a book of tools. So I do that. We have built the Compassion Fix coaching team. We're still building, and Brooke's a part of that. So one of my favorite things is teaching, though, and sharing the stuff that I get to learn. Oh, good. This is progress with all of you. So what I want to share today is this tool that I have found so helpful in resolving inner conflict. Right? So when we have those voices in our heads, our roommates, and they're all saying different things, I want to empower you with how you can manage those roommates in your head. So today I'm going to take you through a tool, and then we will build on this throughout the year together and get better and better about managing our roommates.
Is it a PowerPoint?
Yes, it's that top one, Brooke, releasing inner conflicts. Yep. Awesome. Okay, so let me give you an example to context this, and then I want to hear some examples from you guys. So, like this morning, I had this plan of get up, work out, or go for a walk. But when my alarm was going off, I heard this voice say, you could just stay in bed and skip it today. Then I heard another voice say, you know what, you do have a really busy day. Maybe you should take this morning off of working out. Then I heard another voice say, but you set this intention and you'll feel better if you go do this, and you'll actually have more energy throughout the day if you go do this. And there were probably some other voices in there too, but they were all suggesting things to me as I'm laying there, and quickly I could feel this overwhelmed by like, what am I gonna do? What's your decision, Ginger? And when I hear all those voices, I want to just shut down and be like, I'm just gonna lay here and have coffee, right? And so that is an example of the kind of inner conflict that is going on 24/7 in our brains, and it becomes normal. And we have to kind of practice even isolating it, like I just gave you that example. Because if I just take those three voices, get up and go for your walk, it's a busy day, you have a lot to do, you probably should skip the walk and start getting stuff done on your list. Or lay here and have coffee. If I look at those three, they all sound like they have my best intentions, and they are all actually trying to help me in their own interesting way, right? But at some point, I have to kind of be the CEO of all my roommates, right? I have to own it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to show you a tool of how to do that. Will you go into like a presentation mode or slideshow? Where is that? I can help. And I'll get the clicker too. Yeah, go up to slideshow. Where is it? Right there. Go back. There you go. Okay. Now play from the start over at the left. Perfect. And then this should work, Brooke. Thank you.
It only took like 9 people.
Okay, now let's turn this on. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, we're good. So, okay, what inner conflict do you guys hear? What are some examples you can tune into that you hear of? Shoulds are usually a good one. Anybody have an example?
Which family member to serve?
Yes. Yes, which family member? Oh, that's upside down. Which family member? Give us an example, Yvonne.
20 down to 13, so collegiate needs down to feed me.
Right.
And then, the 50 2-year-old teenager.
That one too. Right. Okay. So there's voices saying this one's most important. No, this one's most important. No, you should. Or some guilt, some should. Okay.
Walk in the door and they all attack you with
Yes.
their present moment.
And then the real people. Yes. The real people and the voices in your head. Okay. What else are you hearing? What else inner conflict goes on in your brain?
How about you should have more things figured out?
Oh, that's a good one. More things figured out.
Really working for me.
And is there another roommate that opposes that opinion? Is there a roommate that says, no, you're doing great?
Oh, I think it's doing great, Brooke. Brooke tells me I'm doing all right.
We all need to have
No,
Brooke.
I think it's more, yeah, but it's a lot to figure out.
There you go.
I think I'll go play pickleball.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's like this let's just avoid it voice, right? Let's not deal with that right now voice. Perfect. Okay, what else? These are all parts of you. We just have to kind of tune into them a little bit this morning. What else do you hear? What about like choosing what you're going to wear today, or how you're going to get here? Mission's closed, right? I had voices going, go Ward Parkway. No, don't. That's going to take too long.
Plan.
Go Mission, then go around. No, don't. That's going to take too long. Last time you were late. Yes.
Setting aside the needs that are immediate to address some goals you have for your own personal future.
Ooh, good, Kim. Okay.
And for me specifically, I wanted to take a class
Yeah.
since graduating college pretty much. And every year, every semester, it's, no, I've got to take care of this, I've got to do this. And
That's a good
not
one.
going to work, that's going to interfere. And I feel the desire increasing to take this class, but then it seems like the conflicts are increasing as well. So.
That's a great one. So can you hear that? I think we can all kind of relate to that. The immediate needs versus like a future desire. And the immediate needs win, usually, right? And then we put our stuff on the back burner. And there's probably like multiple players in that, multiple parts of you. This part of you that wants to learn and go back to school and grow. And then there's another part going, oh, we don't have time for that. And that's a big commitment. And then there's another part saying, life is short, let's go do this. And then there's another part going, yeah, but the wheels will fall off the cart if you aren't here, Kim, right? So you're tuning in. Okay, these are the parts of you. And Dick Schwartz is the founder of internal family systems theory. It's over 30 years old now. He was a psychologist that was looking for a better way than just cognitive theory to help people have self-compassion, basically. The self-compassion research that I've quoted before with you guys from UT Austin and Harvard and Stanford and Berkeley, that came actually after Dick Schwartz's stuff on family systems. The interesting thing is it's kind of just now taking off. It's like the research and the powers that be in the psychology industry are finally getting on board with this. But I have found it to be one of the best self-compassion tools if we can learn that these are just parts of myself. Right? This is not the truth of who I am. These are all different parts of myself trying to contribute to my well-being. They're trying to help Ginger through life. But if I don't manage them, then one often takes over, like the immediate needs voice takes over, and the long-term goal person gets locked down in the basement. Okay? So I'm going to use a house analogy here. Okay, so this idea, the premise of this is that you are a soul having a human experience, and that your body, this being that we see in the room today, is actually the house of your soul. And that soul lives in this body and has lots of roommates. And the longer we live, the more roommates we accumulate. I have a running list. I think I'm going to make it to about 1,000 soon of these like roommates. And they come and go, right? But they're all in there chiming in at different times in my life. And so we all have them, and that's part of the premise of this is every one of us has inner roommates. This is not multiple personality disorder. This is not borderline personality disorder. These are just part of being human. Now, those mental illnesses are the extreme of this. When, like if you watch the movie Sybil, she became 11 different people, right? That is the extreme of what we're talking about. For most of us, we just have these voices chiming in, and we have to assume kind of the manager role of them. And that's where a lot of us just aren't aware. We think that is us talking. And then we often shame ourselves instead of empowering ourselves. So that's why I think this work is really important. Okay, so here's all of our inner roommates. And like I said, we have hundreds of them, but today we're gonna start to tune into some of them, okay? So they're all in there trying to help me out. All right, the important thing to remember is like, who is the boss? Who's the real me? And we've talked about who am I at my core and who am I at my essence. That's part of all of our work in our lifetime, is to figure that part out, right? Well, here are some words that might help you kind of get there. Yourself. Your core, your essence, your soul, those are all synonyms for the same thing, has these traits. You are compassionate, you are curious, you are connected, you are calm, you are courageous, you are clear in your thinking, you are caring, and you are creative. This is the truth of who you are. So if that little inner critic roommate was like, well, you're not really that, right? That's the inner critic, and you're just canceling yourself because these are true. And Dr. Schwartz's research over 30 years has proven that these are the 8 core things inherent in every human being. Many times we just forget, or we lose touch with it, or life throws arrows at us and we forget to be calm, or we forget to be courageous because we've been burned a few times, right? But at the core of who you are these 8 qualities. And so when you're trying to identify self versus roommate, part of it is getting back to this. Okay, the true Ginger is these things, but I'm super triggered and anxious and spinning over here. But that's not the true me. That's just me listening to a lot of roommates. Those are just parts of me. I have to go back to me to manage the roommates, okay? So this is kind of the foundational belief in his theory and in this work. Does this resonate? Does this feel like, yes, when I am my best, truest, purest self, I am these things? You also see these things in children because they're not conditioned by the world yet, right? Think about little kids you know. Now, calm, debatable. But inherently, most children are these 8 things. Right? So that is your truest self. So if you take nothing away from today, just spend some time in that identity. That is the truth of who I am. As people of faith, this is Bible story after Bible story, is trying to remind us of these qualities of God and you, your worthiness. Your worthiness is really based on being able to see yourself as this. This is my true self. Okay? It's hard. It's especially hard for women, but we can do it. We can work at it, and we're going to keep feeding it to our brains until it feels true. All right, now let's meet some roommates. Actually, before I do this, I want to show you a quick video if I can pull this off. Do you guys know the movie Inside Out? Dick Schwartz, the founder of this theory, contributed as a consultant to Inside Out. Let's see if I can bring it up. Oh dear, this might not work. So I just wanted to show you this quick clip. YouTube. Let's see, I think I can cue it up real quick.
Ginger, we just did a series here that was on Pixar
Yeah.
movies, so 4 parts.
Oh, perfect.
So 4 different movies, and one of them was Inside Out.
Awesome. So what came of it in your discussions or in the sermons?
I mean, it was just a pretty cool correlation
Yeah.
between the things we can learn from secular,
Awesome.
you know,
Exactly.
and how applicable
It all is to
and
our,
relevant
yes.
they are to our
This movie is so good to help us understand ourselves. Okay, I'm going to show you a minute scene, and then we're going to watch it again so you can listen more closely. So first time, just take it in.
Here we go.
Can you hear it?
Think it's safe?
What is it? Okay, caution. There is a dangerous smell, people.
Can you hear
Hold
it?
on, what is that?
This is disgust. She basically keeps Riley from being poisoned,
think it's
physically
coming through.
and socially.
That is not brightly colored or shaped like a dinosaur. Hold on, guys.
You know what?
Broccoli!
There we go.
Well, I just saved our lives. Yeah, you're welcome.
Riley, if you don't have dinner, you're not gonna get any dessert. Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this. Right. It's an airplane. Oh, airplane. We got an airplane, everybody.
Okay. Sorry if you can't hear it. I'm going to replay it. And I want you to hear how they are explaining. Oh dear, how do I get back? Where's my back arrow? Sorry, guys. Oh my goodness. My practice in the kitchen this morning is not paying off. Okay, here we go. Now, listen to how the parts are helping her.
New.
Think it's safe?
What is it? Okay, caution. There is a dangerous smell, people. Hold on, what is that?
This is disgust. She basically keeps Riley from being poisoned, physically
Accessibility.
That is not brightly colored or shaped like a dinosaur. Hold on, guys. It's broccoli! Well, I just saved our lives. Yeah, you're welcome.
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not gonna get any dessert. Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this. Right. Here comes an airplane. Oh, airplane. We got an airplane, everybody.
Okay. So what is disgust's role? And what is anger's role? Yeah, keep things fair, right? So these parts are trying to help us. And that's what Inside Out does so well. I highly suggest you watch that whole movie if you haven't, because it is so, so good. And sometimes you want to take it in the first time and then watch it again for the psychology lesson. But these parts are all trying to help us, but they get in the way and cause outbursts and hurt feelings and get in trouble for it. So there's 3 sections I want us to kind of focus on today. Those hurting parts of you, the manager parts of you, and they're called firefighter parts of you, the ones that avoid, the ones that like go play pickleball in Brooke's example, okay? And we love all these parts and they have a role, but we're gonna try to identify in ourselves some of these a little bit. So there's hurting parts of you. These are the ones that got left out on the playground or didn't have a seat at lunch or wet your pants and somebody made fun of you, right? These are the hurt parts of you, and they are still in there. That 5-year-old, that 7-year-old, that 12-year-old, they are in there, and all the other parts are saying, let's cover her up. She's tender, she hurts. Let's not expose her, okay? So these are the vulnerable parts. These are the abandoned parts. These are the ones that aren't sure what to do next. These are the ones like in faith, maybe seeking different answers, but afraid to ask them, right? So other parts will be like, you can't ask that. Can't ask that question, right? Not at Village, but at a lot of places we can't ask that. Unable, so like I'm not gonna go play pickleball because I don't know that I can play very well. Okay, that's a part of myself that I'm covering up or feel it's hurting inside, but I don't even realize I'm covering these up. So these are parts of us that just got hurt as we aged, and they're all still in there, and they pop up every once in a while. So if Brooke asked me to go play pickleball, one of these parts might be like, oh, last time you did something like that, you kind of made a fool out of yourself. And another part will be like, and remember you turned your ankle, and remember, you felt really left out because you were the worst one at that. And remember, they all know each other and you don't. And all those parts are chiming in on my decision to play pickleball. Those are all hurt parts of me that I was listening to so far, right? So we want to notice these parts. We also want to love on these parts so much. But what I have found in working with people on this kind of stuff is we don't even realize it's a hurt part. It kind of comes out as a biting part sometimes, okay? So here's where the managers come in. So those are the hurt parts. The manager parts try to protect the hurt parts. So a perfectionist would be like, people are coming over, my house needs to look like a magazine, right? Well, that's really a hurt part of me that was ashamed when I was little because people popped over and there were underwear on my floor in my room or something, and I was mortified. And so now the perfectionist is like, the house has to be perfect, okay? But I have to understand where that perfectionist is coming from. She's really trying to help me cover up a hurt part of me. Managers are really successful most times in the world. They also really cause conflict. Your manager parts can be the secret to your success. They can also be why you lose friends and family because they are protecting you at all costs, so they might get defensive. They might get judgy. They might manipulate to protect you. They might shame you. They should all over you. They're like, you should get out of bed. That's the protector part from the inner critic that's going to beat me up later that I skipped my workout, right? See how this is a network of parts of you, all just parts of you, and all trying to help me be successful in life. Can you think of other names for these in your own life? I want you to start naming your own parts. What, so far, do you have a hurting part or a managing part you can identify? I'm sure you can hurt for your children. That's a hurting part. That's usually easy to identify. First day of school, for any moms, bring up anxiety that your baby's not going to be treated well. Okay, let's look at one of those. Who wants to use that one? Anybody want to use that one? Meg, can I call you out? Meg's got a middle schooler, so that's a tough one. New middle schooler. So Meg, what part of you is scared for your son?
Going from 60 to 70 kids to 400 70 kids. So
Yes.
not seeing his usual friends.
Yep.
Going to classes across a building in 4 minutes. All things I worried about.
Yeah.
He made it, guys.
He made it.
4 minutes.
He made it in 4 minutes, so it's working out okay.
I made a couple times.
So as you're driving to school that first day, you hear that voice of like, oh no, oh no. And then what else did you hear in the car, in your head? Did you hear other voices? Was there a reassuring one?
Yeah, yours. 'Cause you sent me good information about middle school. They were reassuring. Like, he has a good head on his shoulders. He's a confident boy. Like, he can do this.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's right. Then you, as the manager of the house, get to decide which one you're listening to and spending time with. Because if you kept spending time with that fearful, hurting part of you that doesn't want your son to be hurt too, right? And that's probably coming from pain we have felt. And so we know what it's like to walk into a huge building that's scary and you're a little person with a ton of people. We know how that's a hurt part of us at some point. So that kind of protector is like, hey, Meg, you should worry about this. You should worry about this all day. You should cry. You should, like, this is really scary, Meg. And then another part of you is like, Meg, he's got it. He's a great kid. He's going to find his way, and this is good for him and building strength, right? This is what I want you to tune into, because then as you're driving, instead of getting hijacked by the fear, you can learn to manage these parts. Oh, there's a part of me that's afraid. there's also a part of me that knows it's going to be okay. And that's the breakthrough moment, right? If you can just say, this is a part of me that feels that way today, and this is a part of me that feels that way today, that's everything. It's that magic right there that I want you to experiment with today. And you will start feeling that, oh, okay, we're going to be okay. That's all it takes, is just to recognize that's just a part of me, just a part of me, not the whole of me. That's the language to start using with this tool.
But is second guesser also
Yes.
go under?
Yes. Oh, that's a great one. Yes. That's a great one. Second guesser, self-doubter, right? That's the manager. Like, just think of her like hustling to protect you all the time. Have we thought of everything? Right? Have you double checked everything? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Right? That's the manager. She's hustling to keep you safe. She also is what exhausts us and keeps us from inner peace. Right? Okay.
What about
Yeah.
prayer
Judy. Yes.
here?
Perfect. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, if it's beyond me,
Exactly.
give it to somebody else.
So prayer would be like the opposite of a manager part, wouldn't it?
Well, but I'm thinking about the child who's
Yeah.
going to school.
Exactly.
I mean,
Right. I
if
can't
they're
manage
there,
that.
Then I'm thinking about when
Exactly.
Kira
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
her first day of nurses school.
Yes.
She's there, I'm here,
Yes.
but,
You can pray for her.
right.
Exactly. Perfect. So manager is when we think we can solve all the problems. So faith is, in many senses, the opposite of a manager, which is really, really good. When we pray, we're actually releasing the need to manage everything. We're quieting the manager in our head. That's very good. Yep. You're learning to work with the parts. Yeah, Joe.
Well, I have a hurting example.
Okay.
So, as a widow,
Yeah.
there's that feeling kind of abandonment.
Yes.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I mean.
It is.
And the loneliness and the
Yeah.
abandonment
It
and
is.
trying to deal with that. And then on the manager side, you think, well, gee, I don't want to be sad and because nobody's going to want to be around me if I act like I'm sad. And,
Perfect. Perfect example. Like, so I'm going to dinner with friends and I feel sad today, but you got to hold it together, Joe. You can't do this tonight. You can't do this. You did it last time, so you can't do it tonight. That's the manager part of you. And the sad part's like, but we just need to be sad. And the manager's like, it's not convenient, right?
And nobody wants to see that.
Right, exactly. So then what Joe, as the CEO of her house, the boss of her house, that compassionate, clear, calm, connected being would say, yeah, there is a part of me that is sad tonight. There's also a part of me that wants to pretend like everything's okay. Can we find space in the middle, guys? Right? Can we go to this dinner, and it's okay to be melancholy. We can also hold it together when we need to. And you're managing those parts. That's how we don't get hijacked by it. And that self-compassion of seeing that, yes, there is a hurting part of me. There always will be. And we don't have to always cover her up, right? The manager doesn't have to be so afraid of her coming out. Exactly.
So I'm trying to manage her.
Okay, I think we just manage ourselves, Judy.
At dinner, I'm just trying to manage.
Exactly.
By having her have a glass of wine.
Okay, here we go. Perfect segue, because here is the wine drinker. Okay, perfect segue, Judy. So we have these parts that Dr. Schwartz calls firefighters, but they just want to put out the pain at all costs. So let's just drink. Let's go play pickleball. Let's lay on the couch all day. Let's binge a show. Let's not feel this. Let's eat meat. Right? We all have our different ways of firefighting, but these parts of us are like, let's not go there. It's just too painful. It's too painful. And so the managers are trying to control it all. These guys, the coping parts of you, they just don't want you to bleed out. So when it starts to get painful, they have a suggestion of what else we could do. We could just avoid it. And we could do X, Y, and Z to avoid it. And so you can see how these guys get you in trouble too, right? If I am just avoiding my whole life and never feeling the sadness and never learning to kind of manage the managers, then I'm going to spiral into an abyss that can't function in the world. Right? And so you can see how these like teams are all trying to help me. So the party girl's like, Ginger, let's not deal with this. Let's just go out. You can just forget all about it, right? But then what happens? Let's play through that. So I go out and I have too much wine to try to cope with my hurting parts and my manager parts. I'm trying to quiet everybody down. What rages the next morning after that night? Exactly. I'm getting walloped by roommates the next morning, right? That was stupid. You made a fool out of yourself. Okay, now the managers are all taken over again, right? And the hurting parts are like embarrassed and ashamed. And here I did it again, right? And so all of these parts are just always chattering. And part of our job is to go back to, okay, guys, so here's how we do that. Here's the how. Okay, so this is the inner conflict of like the next morning after my over drinking. Now we're all screaming at each other in my head. And I feel horrible and just want to pull the covers over my head and never come out again, ever, ever. Or get a one-way ticket to somewhere and disappear, right? Because that's when you have that urge, it is running away from your inner roommates is oftentimes what you're really wanting to do. It is so loud in your head. Like that Calgon take me away slogan, right? That's what this is like, if she could have just learned to manage her roommates, she didn't need Calgon, right? But that's what it is. It's like, take me away from this chatter. So inner conflict is constantly going on in your brains. And I think it feeds anxiety, it feeds depression. The longer I do this work of working with people, it's been 8 years now of working with people one-on-one, the more I really believe this lack of management of the parts of ourselves and the lack of awareness of what's really going on is what's fueling so much of our mental distress. So that's why I'm always looking for tools that will land with people differently and introducing lots of different tools because our brains are so different, hoping that one of these becomes your go-to. Okay, so here's what we do. We call them all to the table. All right, roommates. We got a big day ahead. So I'm going to go back to Meg's example. We have a big date ahead. Porter's going to middle school. Get ready, everybody. The scared parts of me, I get it. You are trying to warn me, but I need you to quiet down a little bit today because I'm fragile. Today is a hard day for a mom. So scared parts, I hear you. I hear you. Now we need to back down a little bit. And encouraging parts, I really need to hear from you today because my heart's broken. And so I really need you guys to step up. And you are literally managing the parts. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it really, really works because what you're tapping into is empowerment. We love neuroscience in this group. You're tapping into moving from your amygdala, the fear center, to your prefrontal cortex where rational thought happens. This tool helps you do that. So now I'm envisioning this meeting with my parts. Right there, I moved out of my amygdala into my prefrontal cortex. I couldn't imagine this meeting with my parts if I was just in my fear brain, my lizard brain, right? So that's why this tool works on many, many layers to help us get through life, is because it involves brain management, you're empowering yourself, it's self-compassion, that I'm loving all parts of myself. I'm not arguing with that scared part of myself. That's legit. I'm throwing my child into a big building with lots of people, and I don't know what happens in there, and I'm not with him. I'm not with Kira at nursing school, right? I totally am out of control here. So, in your meeting, Judy, you could say, let's all pray, right? We're gonna open this meeting with prayer, and we're gonna close this meeting with prayer. And parts, you have your assignments for the day, okay? Do you feel the empowerment switch? Yeah. Okay. Tell me what you're thinking about as you hear this. Anybody have an application you could put this to use?
It just seems like we've been conditioned to not think about the roommates that are difficult and to just keep
Yep.
moving.
We have.
So it's interesting to think about engaging
Yeah.
the parts that are hard.
Yeah. Exactly, Brooke. It is. I think we are an avoidant firefighting society, right? I've got a product for you. I've got a new book for you to read. We like fixing problems instead of sitting in the suck of it all, right? And saying, this is really hard. And noticing that sad part and that angry part and that disappointed part and that abandoned part and that hurting when I was 5 part and that hurting when I was 13 part. That takes more effort and education. Like, we have the luxury of sitting in here today learning more about stuff. But when you're just on autopilot trying to pay the bills and feed kids, we don't have the luxury of this kind of work. And so then we're just digging the hole deeper and deeper. And that's why I like to give voice to this stuff and share it, because I like to research it, but if I just research it, it doesn't help anyone else. And so these are the conversations you can go have with your people now, and you can have with your children, and we start that ripple effect, because we're working against a society that likes to firefight and just put out the fire. Don't really deal with the problem. We Band-Aid, right?
Ginger, what do you do with the parts that manifest like physically? So like,
Yeah.
okay, my stomach hurts, oh, my heart's racing, I'm sweating.
Yep.
Then you start to build up.
Yeah. Great question, Yvonne. So there's a whole, so somatic is like body-mind connection. There's a whole branch of internal family systems that's somatic internal family systems. So in a little teaser for that would be like, where do I feel that part in my body, right? So maybe I feel that inability part of me, like I question my ability to do something. That feels like a lot of like neck tension or upset gut. Like I'm really nervous. I'm really scared. Fear seems to come like, GI related oftentimes. The busyness, the manager parts feel very in my head, but then they create tension all over my body. I will notice if I'm listening to a manager part on my walk gets a lot more fast and tense and right, and I got to get home. Oh my gosh, it's been that long, right? That's a manager part, and I just tensed up my body listening to that voice. So then I would want to go into wait a minute, and that was kind of a firefighter. I'm going to rush home. No, we're going to have this walk. We're going to look at what's going on within you, and then my body calms. So yes, there's a huge physicality to this. And so part of it is you can start, as you talk to these parts, like, where is that in my body? Broken heart, right? Oh, that's in my heart. My heart hurts when I think about that hurting part of me. So yeah, tune into your body. I really think the future of psychology is going to be the body connection. I think we're going to move out of cognitive work. So we've worked so hard on the mind, and it's not really working, right? We still have a ton of mental health issues in our country. So I think we're going to go back more into embodiment, which Eastern medicine has been trying to teach us all the time. But I think we're finally, as Americans, going to wisen up to like, oh, this isn't the stress level, my body's shutting down. And so I think you're going to see psychology speak to what you are already feeling, Yvonne, is that mind-body connection. So start now. Like, where do I feel that in my body? What feels tight? There's a manager part there. Yes, Kim.
I feel like knowing these parts and thinking about them differently will because sometimes you are exhausted.
Yes.
And you may have a laundry list of things to do, but if you have that glass of wine or binge those shows, all that creates, if you don't
Exactly.
know about this, is more anxiety. But sometimes you need to recognize what's going on and say,
Yes.
I'm going to give myself permission to do this now, and it's okay.
Yep.
Because
Perfect.
tomorrow I'll pick up the list again.
Perfect. I love that, Kim. Such a good example. Let's play with that example a little bit too. Okay, so I'm exhausted And there's part of me that wants a glass of wine. There's part of me that wants to lay on the couch. There's part of me that wants to binge a show. There's part of me saying you have too much to do. My body feels really heavy and tired, and my eyes are tired. So, okay, if I have that meeting with all my parts to decide what are we going to do here, I'm going to take out the drinking suggestion because I know that's going to ignite some other parts later, and I'm not going to be glad with that decision. I am going to listen to you say I should lay on the couch. You're right. My body feels heavy. My head feels heavy. I have tension everywhere. Laying on the couch is a good idea. Okay, then how long are we going to lay on the couch? Because the time manager, she's in my head too. That there's always this like, so the time manager is like, how about an hour? And then another one is like, I think you're going to need 2. What if you fall asleep, right? And again, I'm having this meeting, so maybe I should set an alarm on my phone for a couple hours. Okay, thank you. That's helpful, right? And then you're making an intentional plan to rest. But because, like you said, Kim, because I'm aware of these parts, I also can raise the caution flags of that part's going to get me in trouble, and I'm not listening to that part, right? But that can all happen in a couple seconds. I've been working with this all summer I always test out everything before I teach it, and this one, it's interesting how quickly now it'll be like, nope, not listening to that part. And instead of spending a lot of time with going down that path, right? So I've been really encouraged by how quickly our brain likes this stuff. So I think that you will find it really helpful. And then you're exactly right. So we are exhausted. What are we going to do about it in a healthy way? Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about our kids whose prefrontal cortex
Yes,
isn't
exactly.
fully formed until what, early 20s?
Yep, 24-ish, yep.
And so it's so lovely for us to sit here and talk about how it's going to move from here to here.
Yes.
And have this conversation. How do we help
Yeah.
those under 24-ish
Yes.
be able to access what they do have better? Because I think all this anxiety that we're seeing in
Yeah.
kids,
Exactly.
they can't manage it in the same ways completely.
Yep. That's right. That's right. We have Heidi Weigel is a child therapist that has joined our Compassion Fix team. So if you have little ones, she's amazing. And she's a licensed therapist. And we were just talking about this last night because she had a little guy come in that was super impulsive and he's getting in trouble a lot. And so I was thinking about you guys in this talk today, and I was like, Heidi, what do you do when that limbic system is more developed than the cortex in a child? So she said this is something that she did with him. So she did like this escalator. Okay, so I'm annoyed, and then I push out my chair, and then I throw down my notebook, and then the teacher says, come up here and talk to me. And then I'm in trouble, and then my mom has to pick me up, and then my mom's mad at me, and we just kept escalating. So what she was doing is like, okay, when I feel that down here, what could I do, right? I have this urge to, I'm mad. What else could I do? And so she was saying it's a lot of just brain training because they don't have the frontal cortex. So one of the things she was saying is like, if I keep escalating, this is horrible up here. Can I interrupt it like down here maybe? And I thought that was, and she's like, that's a hard thing. That's why a lot of kids get medication thrown at them, right? Because they're not taught this, or we don't even know where to start in teaching this. And so the medication just takes out the impulsivity. But now we have a whole generation that doesn't know what their baseline is, or how to cope or manage. So teaching these kind of management skills in hindsight is often all we can do. So you had the blow up, you feel the consequences. Okay, next time my body feels like that, what else could I do? And but she was saying there's a huge gap in therapy right there because it is a hard thing to teach impulse management. So she and I were exploring last night could we start using some of this language with kids? And I don't know, we both were like, we can try it. There is some resource, there is a book I gave her that I had ordered and never read on IFS with children, so she was gonna read through it. So I'll follow up with you in October if we get more on that. It's a really good question, Susan.
What's fascinating is we talk about kids and we're always like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
What's going on with your body? What's your stuff? And then we become adults.
Yes.
What are you thinking?
Yes, totally.
There's a disconnect. Like I think it's really good for kids to tune into what their bodies are feeling
Yep.
and saying.
Yep.
But it's almost like, how can we bring it all together so that it's the lifespan?
Beautiful, Kenyon. Yes, because you're so right. We live in our heads as adults so much more than our bodies. And then I have to think, okay, so why does disease set on later in life? And why do we ache and hurt? Maybe there is a disconnect there that you're right. If we could integrate it all. Very good. Yep. Yeah. We spend so much time in our heads. So if all of us could start to just move it down, right? Like, I'm going to move out of my head a little bit. That's why I like a walk or, a massage or like just rubbing your shoulders tunes you back into your own body. Yeah.
It makes me think of last year, one time you talked about that both and.
Yes.
Thing, and we do that with our kids a lot now, just like you can be angry and you can still like treat your friends well, or
Yes.
you can still like resolve this conflict while feeling
Perfect.
angry about it, like in a better way.
Exactly, Brooke.
And I feel like it does help like kids. If
That's
you just train
awesome.
them, like to think of the and, like I can be scared about the first day of school and I can be excited about it.
Yes.
And it almost does get them thinking.
The parts of them.
that
Exactly.
come out
Yep. There's a
in
part
the
of
same
me.
language.
That's a perfect, I love that you brought up that and tool. That's a perfect one for this. I can be scared and excited, right? I can be sad and hopeful. Those are both parts of me. Yeah. And they can both be at the table at the same time. Yep. That's a beautiful approach to that. Yeah. Yeah. So the goal is that we're all working together. All the parts are working together. And we go from chaos to peace when we can manage the conflicting parts. And there's lots of layers to this tool. If you look it up, you'll see words like blended. That's when like I have become the perfectionist. The perfectionist is not a part of me. I'm living my whole life that way, right? I'm too blended with that part. You'll see words like polarized. That's when the two pieces are fighting, two parts of me are fighting. But Google it. There's a lot of good stuff out there. If this tool is resonating with you, I'll give you a different one every month. But if this one is resonating with you, I think where I see people, well, I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody who's finishing their medical residency recently, and she's interviewing for her jobs, and she's an emergency department physician. And she wants to move to a state where she can hike and do a lot of outdoor things. And so she's interviewing. Well, a lot of those emergency departments have one person in the ER overnight. And so she's like, I just finished residency. This can't all be on me, right? Like, I'm used to asking people what to do. So her anxiety is rising like crazy. And so we used this parts tool to say, yes, there is a part of you that's terrified of doing harm. There's a part of you that's so afraid of getting in trouble or hurting somebody or making a mistake. There's also a part of you that is 30 years old and has been in med school the last 8 years and residency and trained under some of the best physicians, and she knows her stuff. There's also a part of you that's really good at Googling things really fast in the ED, right? She knows where to look. She knows her resources. She's studied. There's a part of you that just feels like I'm too young to have somebody's life in my hands, right? There's a part of you that really has this beautiful faith and you want to make sure you're always tuned in and you're afraid you're going to miss God's direction in the ED one night. All of those parts, and I could see like her eyes, she had so identified with the scared part that she was questioning, should I even be in medicine? Should I give this up right now before I move and take this job? And I think it's really common. It was so brave of her to say it. But that's the only part she'd identified with. I made a mistake. I shouldn't be a physician. I'm not fit to be a physician. When we looked at, no, you have these other parts of you that are going to help you, but you can keep them all in balance. They can all sit around this table together, right? And we need to hear from the one that's been deeply, deeply trained. You've got this. But she'd forgotten that part of herself completely. But I could see it. We were on Zoom. She lives far away. But I could see her face change. And it was such a powerful moment for me to see kind of yeah, okay. When we over-identify with one part of ourselves, we forget all the other truths. And she's an incredibly intelligent young woman, obviously, but couldn't see that on her own because she was so hijacked by the fear. Yeah. Yeah. And then her relationship is struggling because her husband's like, seriously? You just got done with all this and you're talking about not being, really? No. And so, so many aspects of her life were getting impacted because that one part had taken over. Yeah. Anybody else think of an example in your own life where you could apply this? Or think out loud?
When you talk about the inner critic
Yeah.
a lot, is that your manager kind of on
Yep.
just out of proportion?
Exactly. And what's helpful with this tool, because I used to have kind of a critic and an encourager. What I've realized is that critic's really nuanced, right? There's like a perfectionist critic. There's a fear of looking stupid critic. There's a lot of different critics. And when I kind of tuned into more of the parts of what's that one saying, that's that part of me that doesn't want to look stupid. Then it helped me manage the critic a little bit better. So I think this is like the next layer. So the first step would be just kind of realize, oh, I have an inner critic. That's not me. That's a voice in my head. And then this would be kind of the next layer of what are all those parts saying? And there's a gazillion parts. And I think next month I would like to talk about forgiveness. And we will use some of this with that too. And I do forgiveness in a different way. So it's not going to be the old you should forgive. It's not going to be that message. That's too damn hard. We got to find a different way. So we're going to take a how-to approach to forgiveness, but that will come up a little bit in the forgiveness stuff too.
I feel like the manager parts are the only ones on retainer.
Yes, exactly. Yes, they are working overtime. And that's what I will send out these slides to you guys. But I think that what I would like for you to do as homework is name your own parts. So what are all your manager parts, right? There's I've realized I have a lots to do part, and she talks a lot, so just kind of name them. I'm oh, there's lots to do again. And it's kind of become this relationship with them that's interesting. And she's losing her power. Now I kind of laugh at her instead of her cracking the whip all the time. Right? And so I can tell our relationship's changing a little bit because I'm oh, yes, lots to do. I got it. Thanks. Yep. Okay. Make a list. Get a Post-it note. That's what she likes. But it's become this laughing with her instead of me shaming myself. Right? I think that's kind of the shift here. And think about the hurting parts. A lot of these, in the deeper work with this, when we work one-on-one with people, we might go into what age does that part think you are? And what's been interesting is I had one that was I forget what it was, but it was you're 12. I'm not 12. I'm almost 51. We can handle this, And so I realized that part still thinks I'm a little girl that needs a lot of protection. And now I'm nope, we got this. You can chill a little bit. Yeah.
I think one great part about getting older
Yes.
is a lot of those roommates die off.
Yeah.
And
Good.
I don't think you care as much. I don't think you
Good.
worry about criticism as much. I think you're just a little more,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
things that bothered you 20 years ago are just gone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. They found something else to do. And that's what, one of the things is that these parts they're part of us forever and we want to love on them. But we also could say, like, Miss To-Do List, how else could we use your energy today? Right? So they might shift around. They're still in there, but they might shift around. And self-awareness is so, so important with all of this work. The ability to observe yourself, the ability to like have a moment of conflict and then afterwards go, what was that about? Right? Or what did I contribute to that conflict? Or, on your drive home, being able to self-reflect without shame, but just like, oh, wow, that part of me was really snarky at that dinner, and just be able to kind of look at, why was I so snarky? Oh, she said that thing and it hit that nerve because that's what I always shame myself about. Right? Or I had a client who got in a huge fight after family game night, and so we were breaking it down, and she's like, I just have to win. I have to win. I'm like, okay, there's part of you that has to win. There's also part of you that doesn't want you to crush your children in Monopoly, right? Like, I get it. Like, so why do you have to win? And then we realized that part was shamed in high school for being stupid. So she's going to prove on family game night that she's not stupid at all costs, right? But she knew, okay, that blew up, help me, right? And so that's the key is when things blow up, can I self-reflect and try to identify, oh, that's a wounded part of me. The manager was trying to protect the wounded part that tells me I'm stupid all the time. And so I crashed on my family to prove I was smart, right? And then when she gets away from it, she can be like, well, that was dumb, right? But in the moment, we can't see it, right? But now she'll know next time. She'll know next time. So that self-reflection is super important. Yeah.
I have a question, inner critic
Yes.
versus doing something to a standard.
Yes.
Some things have to be done to a standard.
Yes. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
How do you find balance with that?
Yes. So the source of the standard would be one question of like, is this your standard, your expectation for yourself, or a standard you have to meet for a job or a volunteer position or something? So consider who's setting that standard. Do you have an example? I just want it to be relevant. I can keep going in generalities.
Working with patients in healthcare.
Yes, okay.
Or professional nutrition.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Those are great. Oh, wow. Yeah. Those are both like high standard.
From outside.
Yes, high standards.
Has to be met.
Okay, so let's go with the musician. So you can't show up to the orchestra performance having not practiced, right? Yes. Okay. So then there is the composer or the conductor's standard to be met. There's also your personal standard to be met. So in that is the sweet spot, right? If you're just living for the conductor to be happy and meet all of their standards, that's external validation, right? And yes, I have a happy conductor, but at what cost to myself? Did I stay up all night for the last week trying to practice that piece? Are my fingers bleeding? Right? So I met their standard, but that's an external standard. So then I would have to check in with myself of like, okay, where's the little good enough zone, right? That I meet their expectation. I also have protected myself and loved myself. So one of my favorite, Prentice Hall's definition of boundaries is the distance at which I can love you and me at the same time. That's my boundary, right? So standards could apply. I meet your standards and my standards at the same time. And if you have a difficult conductor, you may be saying that's impossible, right? And so then that's a whole other thing to explore.
But it also goes farther because if you don't invited back.
Exactly, and you lose the job. Which, if we were sitting with our parts, there's one part screaming, losing a job would be the worst thing ever. There's another part going, free pass, you got out of there. What else could we go do now with this talent? Right?
Sometimes perfectionists, though, I think have a hard time sorting out what are their own standards
Exactly.
and what are the outside standards.
For sure, for sure. And that manager wants it all met, right?
Yes.
We're going to meet everybody's standards and we are going to be perfect.
Yeah, and that can either lead to exhaustion or paralysis.
Yeah. And horrible shame and self-hatred. Because we are never going to make that perfection mark, right? We're never going to hit it. It's a moving target.
You have to weigh the cost.
Yeah, and you have to weigh the cost. And I think that takes some self-worth too, right? And I'm always like, cart before the horse. Which order do you teach this stuff? And I'm like, there is no way, because it's all nebulous. Like, I have to have some self-worth to be able to even think about at what cost. Otherwise, if I don't have any self-worth, walk all over me. I'll just bow down to you and bleed out for you, right? And then I wasn't worth saving. I wasn't worth saving. So we have to have some worth so that I am worth saving, to then be able to look at that as the cost of my sanity or my life or my desires. But it's not easy. There are no answers. It's all the inner exploration and your truth.
Yeah, I've found that self-worth creates a situation where a lot of these things become a lot clearer.
Yes, they do.
I am a perfectionist as well as a procrastinator, probably because of the perfection. And I finally got to a point where I couldn't pull all-nighters anymore.
Yes.
And I told myself that if I
Yes.
have to pull an all-nighter to do this, then it wasn't that important.
Yeah.
And I found that I'm sorting out what's important and what isn't better, and I'm starting things earlier.
Yes. That's
And
awesome.
letting things go.
That's really good.
That is self-worth in kicking in. That's awesome. You're protecting Kim. Like, Kim, let's not do that to you. So if we start now, we're not doing that to you. But see how that requires some self-worth to be able to get there? And a lot of us hit rock bottom and then go back and say, oh, okay, that's not sustainable. Yeah, exactly. Good questions. Good questions. All right. In your time interest, I just want to honor your time, but this was so fun to be back with you. And we will be here the first Wednesday of every month at 10 o'clock. All right? Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, you send it out, you send out the presentation.
Yes, they'll send out, I forgot the last slide is that one. Yes, we will send out the slides. Yep.